All right, I think I'm live. This is new to me. This is actually going to be the first live video that I've ever done, but I'm really excited about it. So in this video, what I really want to do for you guys today is to go through the dark side, as the title suggests or tells you, the dark side of dieting, really the negative aspects of dieting long term to really become very lean. So we're going to go over my personal experience dieting for relatively about a 4 months, 4+ month period, and also several FAQs that I think will just be incredibly helpful to touch on. And they're things that a lot of people don't really talk about too much. So I'm just going to wait here just a minute more to see people hop on. Um, I am really excited. I mean, again, like I said, this is the first time me doing this. So long story short, I had another video that was intended to be put out this week, but unfortunately, due to literally a series of unfortunate events, I can't do that. Long story short, basically, my entire household has been smitten with the flu this year. So thankfully, my kids haven't really gotten to bed. They've gotten some nasty coughs, and my son had a little bit of fever, but my wife's been absolutely laid up, completely knocked out. I've got something going on in my throat here, but thankfully, no fever. So I know it's been really bad this year from what I've heard. So we're experiencing that firsthand. So, anyways, due to that, I normally go to my brother's because he's got the software where I edit videos, and did not want to expose his, almost 2 year old to the flu virus. So, needless to say, I was unable to do the video that I wanted to. So, I thought, what a great opportunity to be able to kind of sit down and talk through this. It's something that has been on my mind for a long time. So, again, this video, I want to go over the dark sides of dieting to become really lean. And I think there's a lot of helpful stuff that you guys are going to be able to walk away with. Welcome to Dadbod Fitness. I'm going to go ahead and get started here. I'm super excited, super passionate to be helping to inspire you on your journey, on your fitness transformation, really to help you be the cornerstone for your family. I mean, physically, but also just as a parent, as the leader of your household. So, first and foremost, I just want to point out that this is, it kind of worked out that I wanted to touch on this subject because I've been doing a video series of the Truth About Dieting series. So this is going to be another piece in that installment of some other helpful tips and information to be aware of and to really walk into your next diet with. I think it's going to help you be a lot more effective. So, I mean, really just first and foremost, I want to lay out that these dark sides, these negative aspects are really for people who are probably somewhere in the range of 12 to even up to like 16-17% body fat. So you're relatively lean. You're not struggling with being overweight or obesity at all, and you really wanted to get next level lean. So that was kind of where I was. I was somewhere in between 12 and 14% body fat, but I really wanted to take my first stab at intentional dieting. I had gone through, as you've heard me mention probably on this channel, the Arbonne's 30 Days to Healthy Living, which is not directly supposed to be a diet to lose weight. The subsequent result is usually that you lose weight, but this was really the first time that I actually intentionally was tracking my calories, understanding where my maintenance was, dropping it below that in order to really go long term and see how much body fat I could lose and really get as shredded as possible. Now, a lot of that comes with time through the cycle of bulking and dieting. So you have more muscle mass, because I definitely did notice it. Maybe not as significant, but I definitely noticed muscle loss throughout the 4 months of my diet. So, with that said, and hopefully the audio is decent here. This is kind of a test run here, but glad to be sitting down and doing this. So, my experience, going into this, I knew I was going to do a long-term diet. I initially set out to do 12 weeks. I'd seen a lot of successful programs going 12 weeks, so that was what I wanted to kind of jump into. I started out with a very small calorie deficit, so my maintenance was somewhere at the time between 27 and 2,800 calories, and I was only dropping it by about 300. So I started at like 2,400 calories, something like that. With that, started seeing some results, pretty pretty much right off the bat. I mean, usually, right off the bat, you're going to see a lot of water weight loss because you have less carbohydrates in your system, less food volume, a lot less water retention. So, started kind of off there, and then over the course of my diet, I ended up dropping further and further into a deficit, which a lot of people might have to do anyways. Especially if you're in this category where you're relatively lean, but you want to become, leaner, even the next level lean. So again, reiterating, this is not for people who are clinically overweight or obese. You're going to have any dieting that you do is going to have positive effects. And let me just really lay that out there again too, that the intent of this is not to say that dieting is bad. Obviously, it's being lean and being a healthy body weight is phenomenal for your health. I mean, there's so many consequences of having too much extra body fat. So that's not the intent of this. It's really just again to give you a perspective, in my perspective, and some tips as far as what to expect when you're trying to get really lean. So with that said, my cut ended up going even longer than 12 weeks. And at times I went very severely low on calories. A lot of, actually, the final day before the last day of my cut, I think I only ate about 1,100 calories because I was so desperate to be done. And we were going out with my in-laws to a phenomenal restaurant for breakfast. And I knew I really wanted it to be my reward day. I had one day where I kind of just let loose. I didn't track calories. I know I probably consumed like 4,000, 4,500 calories, but it was a good way to kind of reward myself before I got back on track into my maintenance phase. So anyways, throughout that process, I saw a lot of things through a long-term cutting phase that I wasn't necessarily prepared for. So with that, I just kind of want to go over, what I think right now I'll jump right into the top really 6 things that I wanted to call out as far as the downsides to dieting. So the long and short of it is that I saw great results. I lost about 15 pounds from start to finish, which was about a pound a week, which is exactly what I was shooting for. The weight loss definitely slowed the further in that I got into the diet. And unfortunately, I don't think I approached it the best. This being my first attempt to really kind of wrap my hands around the best way to do this. I tried to prepare myself. I did a lot of research up front. And as with all things, you're going to fail in some aspects, but you're going to learn along the way. So that's what I'm excited about. The next time I do go to do another cut, I'll have an even better handle on how to do this. So first and foremost, the top things are the first downside, which seems silly and funny, but it's an obvious one. Immediately you feel hunger, right? I mean, you're eating a typical way, and now you're changing up the way that you're eating. You're eating a lot less food, or at least, well, you're probably, at least first, you're probably cutting out one small meal of your day. But that, when you space out your meals a little bit more, and your body's used to you fueling it at certain times of the day, your body naturally just starts to send hunger signals. A lot of times, even when you're not hungry. And this was the first thing that I caught on to. I was like, oh, wow, okay, I'm feeling hungry. It's been like an hour since I ate. And understanding how, your insulin response works once your blood sugar drops after having a meal, it's all going to be important to understanding what the signals are in your body. And do they actually mean you're hungry? Or most of the time, people just don't realize they confuse hunger with thirst. So that was something I caught on to very quickly. I need to just start drinking even more. So at that time, I actually began a more active job. That's when I left my office job. So that on top gave me a lot more activity. And I was perspiring a lot more because it was summer. And so I had to be drinking a lot more. But I found that curbed hunger and really kept me beginning to be more in tune with what my body is actually telling me. So that's the first one. So you've got to train your body into these new habits, this new structure of eating, and help your mindset just to be aware that a lot of times your body's going to tell you that you're hungry when you're really not hungry. So just be aware of that. Push the fluids, find little things in, like I've mentioned in my other videos, to help you get through that period. So the number 2 thing is that you're going to start to, over the long term, and again, this is coming from my experience, you're going to start to have food cravings that you would not normally have. And I don't mean weird things like, like a pregnancy, where they, I don't know, crave honey and pretzels or something like that. I don't know if that's a real craving, but I'm just throwing that one out there. So what I started finding is that I was like really craving ice cream a lot. And as you've seen in my video, like I included ice cream in my dieting plan within my calories so that I could still have it, once or twice a week on the weekends, where I would account for it with my calories and with my macros. So, but what I did find is that I latched on, like severely latched on to eating a peanut butter sundae with whipped cream on top, and again, fitting it within my calories. However, it was an unhealthy kind of latching onto. I wouldn't say it was quite an addiction, but it was definitely an unhealthy relationship with a peanut butter ice cream sundae. And the reason I also know this is too, like here now, let's see, probably 6 months, 5 months after I finished my cut, it doesn't do what it did for me then. Like I've tried it since then, had a peanut butter sundae, and I'm like, eh, like I almost can't even taste the flavor of the ice cream that that I'm having. It's like I was so fixated on certain things and the fat content and the sugar content and all that kind of stuff that I think it just really kind of blinds you. And it was such something that I look forward to so much throughout the week that it caused me to latch on to it a little bit too much. So pointing that out, that is one of the downsides, that you can start to become, have kind of addictive behaviors towards food and unhealthy relationships with your food. So that was one of the big ones that I definitely found. So number three is really goes right along with it, but developing unhealthy eating habits. So I did really well at the onset of the diet, making sure that I was spreading my meals out consistent throughout the day. And again, studies have shown that the timing of the meals and meal frequency and the meal size doesn't really matter. Countless of studies have proven that it doesn't matter necessarily when you eat your calories. Excuse me. But with that, I still started stretching out the windows in which I would go without food, because it would mean that I could have a bigger meal when I actually ate. Now, a lot of that could be make it very sustainable for you in your dieting, and it did for me as well. I mean, it was great. The unfortunate thing that I found for me though is backloading my calories caused an unhealthy habit as I moved into a maintenance phase, and really more so into now my here second bulking phase, where I found that I'm constantly saving up calories and feeling this scarcity mentality towards the food that I'm eating, even though I have, at times almost 1,000 calories more than I can eat in a day, which is a lot of food when you really think about it. But I still have, and even now, this mentality of scarcity of food. Like my body's still moving out of that. So a lot of that was I gravitated towards eating a ton of food at night. And granted, they were healthy, whole food meals, typically like my binge, if you will. It wasn't a binge, but the big meal that I would look forward to at the end of the night was like ground turkey, green beans with a fried egg on top. It was just a lot of food all at once, especially when you include the fiber in the beans and how many beans I ate. It was a lot of food, and it usually filled me up. So, and I always really wanted to go to bed feeling full. Like it was, and even now, I still have that perspective of I really want to feel full. Like I always want to feel satisfied. I can see that starting to peel away finally, but it's definitely something that's stuck with me. So, just to point that out, to be aware of that, to try and be conscious of that, um, to just kind of distance yourself from those unhealthy habits, and thinking about you're doing this to fuel your body, to make your body healthier, and to be leaner. So, with that, I want to jump to the next one. So, number four is you can binge after a diet. So, I had mentioned I did have one day where I actually just let loose, did not calculate, or did not track my macros, did not track my calories. I know I overate. Um, I ate phenomenally delicious food. I'm just going to say at this restaurant, absolutely amazing breakfast. I had a Boston cream. Okay, I'm telling you, the thing was like this big. It was like bigger than my head. Boston cream, Boston cream pancake. So it was like two pancakes layered, covered in chocolate, Boston cream in the middle, and then I doused syrup on it. It was probably even more than 4,000 calories by the end of the day, but it was good to be able to reward myself, to let go, even if it's for 1, 2, even 3 days, to be able to reward yourself for reaching your goal. I think that's phenomenal, and that's good to do. The problem becomes when that starts to be extended. I know I've seen a lot of videos and information of other people and stories of other people who have gone through that, where they tried to get so super lean. Typically it's people who are going through contest prep for walking the stage in a bodybuilding competition of some sort, and they go through a period where they just can't stop eating. They just keep eating whatever's in sight. So that's like a real thing. Obviously, I mean, people out there could be struggling with that just in normal terms, not from having dieted. So I think it's healthy to be able to let loose for a little bit, to just recognize that you are rewarding yourself, but to not let that continue on. So just kind of be aware of that. And first and foremost, the thing I want to call out here is to have a plan. My plan was that I actually started the Arbonne 30 Days to Healthy Living at the end of my cut. So you'll actually see the next video coming out. As long as nothing else goes on with this flu virus, the next video coming out is actually going to be geared towards that. So I'm excited about that. But my plan, I had a very rigid plan for how I was going to then move into a maintenance phase. So, I was cutting out things like sugar and gluten and dairy and caffeine, which, and no coffee cream or anything like that. So it was restrictive, but I did that intentionally so it's really helped me reach my goal, but then to keep me on track so that I couldn't just then go crazy and have, ice cream sundaes all the time and chips and dip and, pizza and all the case, whatever the case might be. I found that really effective, and I got right back on track. I think it was literally the second day. So I had finished my diet on a Friday. That Saturday was kind of let loose, and then that Sunday I was back on track, tracking my calories because I really wanted to find out what my maintenance was at that point. So have a plan. All right, number 5, your hormones are going to get out of whack when you're dieting. It is mild, and I hate to use this word, mild starvation. So you're not starving, but essentially you're preventing your body from being fed all the nutrients that it needs for the day or for the week, for that 24-hour period, so that you can access body fat stores, obviously, and use those up. So that in and of itself is essentially, what a mild starvation is. But it's a guided process because you're tracking your calories. So what happens when you do that, especially over time, and actually I don't know off my hand, but I know very quickly within the first day of dieting, of being at a calorie deficit, your hormones start to respond in this way. But there's a hormone called leptin that there's a hormone called leptin that when that decreases, that's going to, oh goodness, blanking out here. My apologies. That's the regulation of your appetite and really your fat storage. So it's going to tell you when to stop eating, essentially. So if it's at a normal level, when you're normally full, it's going to send the signal to your brain, and your body's going to tell you that you're full. So when that drops severely low, it means it's not sending that signal to tell you to stop eating. So I definitely experienced this. And I could just keep eating and eating. And even now, like, I still feel the effects of that. Really, I've noticed in the past couple months. So here, 5 months afterward, I can tell my hormones are still getting in check. And depending on the severity of the diet, it could take up to 6 months, even for women, sometimes up to a year. Excuse me, that sore throat comes through. It could take up to a year for you to be able to have your hormones reset if you go very severely low on calories for a long time. So in addition to that, excuse me, in addition to that, there's also another hormone called ghrelin, which is known as the hunger hormone. So when ghrelin increases, that it's actually going to increase your appetite. So leptin drops, ghrelin increases when you're at a calorie deficit. The two of those make it very difficult because you are really hungry and your body's not tracking your hunger well, so you can really overeat if you just aren't paying attention. So that's just something to be aware of and to recognize. So one of the things I also want to touch on here is, well, actually, no, I'll save that for the sixth. But just recognize that your appetite's going to feel like it's increasing. And also another thing that can affect that is cardio. So little pro tip here: if you can limit cardio and extra activity as long as possible, and just focus on a calorie deficit, keep resistance training, lift weight because you want to retain muscle. You want to keep sending the signal to your body to hold on to the muscle that you've built. So save increasing your activity and increasing cardio till the very end. That's one thing I did not do, and I wish I would have. So I started increasing cardio right off the bat. And 2 weeks into my diet, I moved from a desk job to a physical job where I was sweating profusely all day long. Whether it was roofing or I did a lot of weed whacking, tree removal, all that kind of stuff. Increased my activity incredibly. So as much as you can, extra cardio is going to increase your appetite, and it's going to also help reduce your recovery time from your resistance training. I mean, just from working out in general. So when you're at a calorie deficit, you have less nutrients and obviously energy for your body to use to recover. So you want to minimize that as much as possible. So, anyways, with that said, try and hold off the cardio as much as you possibly can, and only do your deficit with diet. Okay, so the last one and the final one, which I really have only ever heard one person talk about, and it's because it's kind of a sensitive subject here. But that's really long term dieting. When you get very, very, lean, um, you can have a decreased sex drive and a decreased need for any kind of intimacy. So this is obviously a huge aspect to someone's life, and I'll to be honest, I definitely noticed this. It doesn't happen with all people, and I wasn't even stage lean by any means. People who get stage lean are incredibly lean, but it's the leanest that I've ever been, and I lost, having lost 15 pounds out of my total was a significant amount of weight to have lost. So with that, and it really wasn't until the latter half of my diet when I was going very low on calories. At times, hitting 1,800 calories, 1,700 calories. So it was very low on calories. I mean, even for me, and I noticed a difference in that. Definitely noticed the impact, because your body is literally in survival mode. All I wanted to think about was food. Like, give me food and let me sit down and just eat as much as I can for that day, whatever I'm calorically I allowed myself. I can't talk. Calorically, how much food I allowed myself. But that was my body's one focus: is everything else falls to the wayside. This is what I need to focus on. So, and it took time for that to come back. I mean, not to get too personal here, but it takes time for your body to kind of reset. So be aware that that could happen if you're trying to get very, very lean. It's not really an enjoyable thing. You don't want to lose that by any means. But everything resets and it does come back to normal. You just got to give it time. So anyways, with that, those are my 6 keys that I kind of wanted to call out here. And what I really want to do is, again, these are not things to be like afraid of. They're not that severe when you're considering the positive benefits of losing weight. So obviously, people who get stage lean for contest prep, there is an unhealthy lean. Your body's meant to carry a certain amount of body fat, and it differs, person to person. We all have different weights that our body likes to sit at, and certain amounts of body fat that our bodies want to hold on to. So, and frankly, aesthetically, many people could argue that there's an aesthetic look to having a certain amount of body fat on your body. A lot of contest, prep people, at the end of their contest prep, you look at them on stage and I'm like, oh, like it just doesn't look appealing by any means. So there's definitely, but the goal there is to have as much muscle as possible and as little body fat. So, with all these things, the positive benefits of losing body fat is always going to be improved. I mean, especially for guys, the less body fat you have, the less estrogen there will be actually in your body, and the better your testosterone will function. Plus, it allows you to build more with more muscle. You can increase your testosterone as well. I mean, simply by resistance training and lifting weights. So there's a countless, health benefits to losing weight. So by no means am I trying to deter someone from trying to lose weight. They're just things to be aware of that you may or may not run into. Because I really want to help people to not, run into any of these walls or difficulties, and especially as far as developing unhealthy eating habits. So things to be aware of as you're going into your diet. So, anyways, I'm running a little bit long here. Just wanted to quick hit on these couple questions. Um, so one of the big questions was, I'm trying to lose weight, but I'm hungry all the time. Why? So obviously, this goes back to really my first point. You're immediately going to feel hunger when you're changing the way that your body's eating. You've got to start to tune in to what your body's signals actually mean. So there's a lot of different ways to actually kind of handle that and deal with that. And a lot of them I've touched on in the previous videos that I've talked about, different ways to kind of curb hunger in between meals. And it's really also helping. It's a mindset. I mean, it is a mindset, going knowing I'm tracking my calories. If I know when I'm allowed to eat for the day, and for me that really helps. I know a lot of people don't like to track, but for me, knowing what I'm allotted for the day helps me look forward to when I can actually eat and feel more confident in the process. So the next one I want to touch on, how can I curb my after dinner snacking? So again, I've mentioned studies have shown meal timing does not matter. Meal frequency does not impact weight loss. Ultimately, what impacts weight loss is calorie deficit. So if that's something that you struggle with, like maybe you don't track, this tends to be, where my wife falls, because she doesn't always have the time to track because she's watching two kids all day long. She's also running a business and trying to keep our house clean. She's not the only one that does that. Just going to throw that out there. We try to share those responsibilities, but she probably does a lot of it and does a phenomenal job. Just to call that out to her, she's utterly amazing. But sometimes she just doesn't have the time to be able to go in and punch all the food, and it's hard for her at night to think about what she's eating, especially when you're tired. I mean, I have this as well. When you're tired, you just go to food for comfort. So it's too easy to do. Food is incredibly comforting, and in that sense, it can be used like a drug. So, and not that I'm saying food is a drug, but it's very easy to use as a comforting tool. So, if that's something that you struggle with, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to do it. I mean, for me, the big way that I do it is by tracking my calories. I save calories towards the night when I know that my body tends to be more hungry. I know that I'm going to want to eat more. I'm going to want to feel more full. So I save it for then. Other things that you can do is drink a big glass of water and go to bed. Sometimes that does it. The other ways to do it is just to look for the healthy snack options. My wife, she will really stick to something more filling. Like maybe a little bowl of relatively plain oatmeal, which tends to be really filling, and can be, depending on how big of a bowl you do, can be relatively low in calories. Especially if you want to add milk to it, I do almond milk, super low calories, or you can just do water. Um, Other things are like carrots and hummus. She does that a lot, or peppers or cucumbers, which are basically, negligent calorie wise. There's a lot of different ways that you can do it. Or if you struggle with the ice cream, start to look for different healthier alternatives like a protein shake, which I did for a long time, even when I was bulking, until I started just becoming too full and bloated at the end of the night by having that. But that's a phenomenal way to get some extra protein in for the day. It's really filling, especially a plant-based protein like a pea protein, which is a slow digesting, which is going to help you feel full longer. So, anyways, those are just a few things to kind of touch on after dinner snacking. So the next question I have is, what is the fastest way to lose weight? Fastest way to lose weight is to stop eating. Sounds really stupid, but that's literally how to do it. But not that I'm advocating just stop eating. That's not the way to approach dieting in a healthy way. But ultimately, a calorie deficit is what it's going to help you lose weight. But within that is the ability to make it sustainable. So think about those ways to actually make it sustainable. A lot, there's keto, paleo, all these different diets that advocate that they're the best way to lose weight, but find a way that works best for you. If keto, having really high fat, a lot of people just talk about how satiating that is. So try that out. If it makes it sustainable, great. If you want to do something more along the lines of what I did, I just strictly calorie deficit. I kept fats a little bit higher to help with my hormone function, and I did relatively moderate carbohydrates. And that just kept my protein really at a solid 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So that I found really sustainable because I could fit in the other things that I wanted to eat. So, anyways, how to lose weight with a busy schedule. How do I lose weight when I'm really busy? To me, for me, that's probably the easiest time to lose weight. You might not be able to work out effectively. And I think a lot of people attribute, I'm busy, I can't exercise, therefore I can't lose weight. It's not the case. 70, if not more, percent of your weight loss goal, all of your weight loss goal is determined by your nutrition, by your calorie count. So really, that's what you want to be considering is where's my deficit at? Am I eating at a calorie deficit? So if I would say if you're really busy, you cannot exercise, cannot work out, don't worry about it. Simply focus on diet. And what do you do when you're stuck on a weight plateau? For me, I tried a lot of different things. You can do a refeed day, a couple refeed days here and there, just to kind of help boost you mentally, and also bring up your energy levels for workouts and different things like that. You could take a diet break, which has been shown in studies to be very effective in helping to maintain a long-term body, a long-term dieting approach. So maybe every 2 months, take a week off, take 2 weeks off of dieting, go back to maintenance, then drop it down back to your deficit. Another thing that you can do is increase cardio, which I've mentioned, and you can also increase your calorie deficit because as you diet, your body's metabolism does slow down, so it's going to be harder and harder to lose weight. Okay, that was all that I have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I am super excited. Hit the like button down below. Also, subscribe. This content is really, especially for parents and for dads out there who are trying to build lean mass and to stay as lean as possible, to be healthy and a strong cornerstone for their family. These videos are geared towards you. So if you're new to this channel, consider subscribing. I can't wait to see you on the next video. Thanks for sticking with me.